This time, though, something was different.
Sir, stop right there.
What now? Sir, I'm tired, and I just want to go home.
Your dog? She's off leash.
What are you talking about? She's never off leash. I'm holding her harness right now.
Not anymore, you're not.
And before I could process what he was saying, I felt my hand empty, the harness slipping away. Daisy was gone. Panic set in. I called her name, but there was no response. My heart raced, and I felt a cold sweat trickle down my neck. Daisy never strayed from me. She wouldn't just run off.
She must have slipped away. I told you to keep her under control.
I knew he had something to do with it, or had cut the leash. I could feel the malicious satisfaction oozing from his words. I swore I heard the shuffling of hurried feet and a dog whimpering before a trunk was slammed shut, but I didn't know for sure. Blind and alone, I stood there in the middle of the street, helpless. Hi, my name is Eric, and I am a Black American, and I've never been the type to seek out trouble. It just seems to find me. You'd think being blind would give me a little peace, right? But no, in my case, it's almost the opposite. You see, I have a dog, a damn good one too. She's my eyes, my partner, my lifeline. Her name is Daisy, and she's been with me for 5 years now. Trust me, I'd be a wreck without her. But apparently, not everyone sees Daisy as the wonder that she is. I can recall this one time I encountered a man that was hell-bent to go out of his way to make my life harder. The man in question was a police officer, no less, and his name was Trent. I don't know what it was about him, but this guy had it out for me, and more specifically, for Daisy. He didn't outright say it, but I could feel the contempt rolling off him whenever we crossed paths, which was far too often for my liking. It started a few months ago, just little things at first. Officer Trent would stop me on the street for no reason, questioning me as if I looked suspicious or out of place. But how out of place can a blind man walking with a service dog really be? I'd be tapping along with my cane, Daisy guiding me like she always does, when I'd hear a sharp voice call out,
Hold up, sir. I need to speak with you.
Who? Me? Is everything okay? The first few times, he'd ask the usual. Where I was headed, if I lived nearby, the same stupid questions over and over again. I'd give him my address, tell him I was just walking to the store or heading home from work, and he'd act like I was lying, like I didn't belong here. But it wasn't until he started focusing on Daisy that things really took a turn.
You need to keep that dog under control. I've been hearing from people that it's been off leash and that it's snapped at a few people. That dog better not cause any trouble, or I'll have animal control take her away.
Sir, she is never without her harness. I need her to guide me. I have no idea who is saying that she snapped at them, but I can honestly say that that has never happened.
Are you calling me a liar?
Well, no sir. But Daisy is highly trained and not at all aggressive. She couldn't be a seeing eye dog if she was.
You just keep that beast on a short leash. If I hear that she has bitten someone, I'll put her down myself. Got it?
I was at a loss for words. After all, it was true. Daisy was highly trained to be patient to a very high level and wasn't remotely aggressive. She had never snapped at a single person or another animal her entire life. I didn't know what this police officer was talking about, but I also didn't want any trouble, and so I placated him and went on my way. But I kept encountering Officer Trent. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was a racist or was just one of those people who didn't like dogs. Not everyone's an animal person, I get that. But soon, it became obvious that it was personal. I heard from some neighbors that Trent had a bad history with dogs. Apparently, one had bitten him when he was a kid, and ever since then, he's hated them. But it wasn't just that. It was like he wanted to prove something, like pestering a blind man with a service dog gave him some twisted sense of power. It got worse. One day, Daisy and I were walking to the park when Trent pulled up next to me in his squad car. I could hear the tires squealing as he slowed down, the crackle of the car door opening.
Hey, you can't bring that dog into the park. There's a no pets policy. And by the way, what if it poops? You won't even see it because you blind.
She's a service animal. She's allowed in any public space. Besides, how am I supposed to walk through the park without her?
I don't care what she is. Rules are rules. You bring that dog in there, and I'll write you up for a violation.
I knew he was lying. I've done my research, and I know the laws. Daisy has every right to be with me wherever I go, but Trent didn't care about that. He just wanted to mess with me, to make my life that much harder. From that day on, it seemed like Trent was everywhere. Whenever I stepped outside with Daisy, I'd hear his voice, feel his presence lurking. He'd find any excuse to stop me. He'd accuse Daisy of being unclean, of not having the proper identification, anything to justify his harassment. One evening, I was walking back home, tired after a long day at work, when I heard that all too familiar voice again. This time, though, something was different.
Sir, stop right there.
What now? Sir, I'm tired, and I just want to go home.
Your dog? She's off leash.
What are you talking about? She's never off leash. I'm holding her harness right now.
Not anymore, you're not.
And before I could process what he was saying, I felt my hand empty, the harness slipping away. Daisy was gone. Panic set in. I called her name, but there was no response. My heart raced, and I felt a cold sweat trickle down my neck. Daisy never strayed from me. She wouldn't just run off.
She must have slipped away. I told you to keep her under control.
I knew he had something to do with it, or had cut the leash. I could feel the malicious satisfaction oozing from his words. I swore I heard the shuffling of hurried feet and a dog whimpering before a trunk was slammed shut, but I didn't know for sure. Blind and alone, I stood there in the middle of the street, helpless. My mind raced as I tried to think of what to do. Daisy would come back. She always came back. I just had to stay calm. But hours passed, and she didn't return. I managed to find my way home, thankfully, and waited by the door, hoping beyond hope that she'd find her way back. I felt sick. Without Daisy, I was lost in more ways than one. That night, I barely slept. My mind was filled with the worst possibilities. What if she was hurt? What if someone found her and kept her? I couldn't stand the thought of her out there, alone and scared. By morning, I was resolved. I had to find her. I spent the next day canvassing the area, calling out to her, asking anyone I passed if they'd seen her. No one had. But I didn't give up. I couldn't. Daisy was all I had. And then, by some miracle, I found her. Or rather, she found me. It was late, and I was sitting on a park bench, exhausted and defeated, when I felt a familiar nudge against my leg. I reached down, my fingers brushing through her fur, and relief washed over me like a tidal wave. Daisy! Oh girl, I'm so glad to have you back.
Hey Eric. Yeah, I found her at the animal shelter. Some anonymous person surrendered her yesterday, apparently.
Oh, hey Sam, thank you so much. Did they know anything about the person that brought her in?
Sadly, no. You got lucky, Eric. I was only down there because I was looking to adopt a dog myself. If I wasn't, who knows where Daisy would have ended up.
I was so grateful to Sam for helping me, and even more grateful that Daisy was back in my life. But something was wrong. I could feel it in the way she leaned against me, the way she trembled. She wasn't herself. She'd been through something, and I knew exactly who was responsible. That night, as I sat in the dark of my apartment, holding Daisy close, I made a decision. Officer Trent had gone too far. It was time for me to do something about it. I'm not a violent person. I've never been one to seek revenge. But Trent had made my life hell. He'd taken away my independence, my sense of security, and, most importantly, he'd hurt Daisy. And that was unforgivable. I spent the next few days quietly gathering information. I have my connections, people who knew people. I learned Trent's routine, where he parked his squad car, when he went on patrol, where he liked to hang out off duty. I wasn't planning anything drastic, just a little payback. One evening, I made my move. It was late, and Trent was on his usual patrol route. I had everything planned out. I knew the alleyway he cut through to take a shortcut back to the station, and I knew it was poorly lit. I waited in the shadows, listening for the sound of his footsteps. When I heard him approaching, I called out, "Officer Trent!"
Who's there?
"It's me. You remember me, don't you?"
What do you want? I heard you got that stupid dog back. That's a shame. Well, hopefully it doesn't run away again. It will be a real shame if it did, though.
Oh, I don't think that will ever happen again. But I just wanted to thank you for everything.
What are you talking about, you foolish cripple? You're out here alone. No dog to keep you company?
Of course not. I made sure to bring along a friend. Well, hopefully you and him can become good friends. Say hi to your new friend. I had spoken to Sam the previous day and had told him about everything that Trent had done to me, and he had agreed to help me. With a lot of difficult effort, we trapped a violent feral dog in a dog carrier, and I had hidden it off to the side of the alley and had rigged up a rope to the carrier's door. I gave the rope a tug and then quickly hurried away. Behind me, I heard the barking of the dog that had been in the carrier, followed by Trent screaming as it bit him, and then chased him through the alley. From what I heard, that stray dog chased him for almost 2 hours before animal control came and helped him. But funny enough, the dog fled and got away from them. In that time before animal control showed up, he had been bitten many times and had even peed himself from fear. I did feel bad for the stray, but I was happy that it got away. After that, Trent left Daisy and I alone. He wouldn't so much as speak to us about anything. People even told me that when he saw us, that he would turn around and head the other way, and always looked panicked when he heard a dog bark. He probably could have told his fellow officers about what I had done, but I don't think people would have believed him, and so I got away with it. But honestly, can you blame me?